Joe Clyde disappeared from his Dixon County home back in 2018, and as time passes, the evidence grows cold and more theories surface. Joe Clyde's father, Joseph, is charged with homicide, his mother, Crystal, with aggravated neglect. The boy went missing nearly 3 years ago, but his remains have never been found.
How many people have been out searching for Joe Clyde as soon as he went missing, and what have we found? Absolutely nothing.
David Marshburn was among those looking. Now, he's an investigator out of North Carolina who works missing persons cases. Marshburn was here searching.
We're up here to find Joe Clyde Daniels.
At one point, he believed the parents were involved. After all, the father confessed to beating the child to death before recanting. But defense attorneys have argued there's no evidence to back that confession.
There's been no blood of Joe Clyde found on anything to this point in time. But yet in these statements that we're supposed to accept as gospel, Joe Clyde was bleeding from multiple places.
All right, this is a case, and there's some hearings taking place this week, and it all involves allegations and an alleged confession made by little Joe Clyde's dad. And this confession is recorded. The defense is alleging it was coerced. Let's take a listen to a little piece.
How many times you hit him in the head? Couple times. Couple times? A little more than a couple though. Yeah. How many times was it? Seven times.
So the pretrial hearings that are taking place right now, extremely important to the case, and again, involves this alleged confession made by little Joe Clyde's father, and whether or not it was coerced, whether it should be admissible. Will the jury hear it? Let's take a listen.
The supposed evidence that they want to get in, that Mr. Ledford became Mr. Daniels' next-door neighbor on or about April 1st, that Joe Clyde went missing almost immediately after Mr. Ledford began living next to the Daniels. Judge, that's not evidence of anything. There were a lot of neighbors around the Daniels residence. That doesn't prove a single thing. There was a house for sale across the street. We could bring them in for the same reasons. Mr. Ledford left his residence and did not return for several months after Joe Clyde disappeared. Mr. Ledford, which was left out by Mr. Lockhart, Mr. Ledford voluntarily provided cell phone records, his cell phone records, to the TBI. And those were turned over to the defense. They have those. He voluntarily gave us cell phone records. That shows there was no bias. Law enforcement did their job. Did they get a search warrant? No, because there was no probable cause. The fact that he lived close to the Daniels does not give probable cause. The fact that he left after being painted as there was evidence of him being a murderer by the defense does not give probable cause. And the fact that his house doesn't have plumbing does not give probable cause for a search warrant for the officers to get his phone records. So there is no law enforcement bias. They followed up on the leads that they had, and they were voluntarily given phone records by Mr. Ledford.
Your Honor, the fact that they waited 2 years after this child was missing to talk to a guy who lived next door that had a vehicle leaving his driveway during the time the child went missing, according to the bill of particulars, that shows bias of the investigation. They're not interested, the state is not interested in evidence that anybody else was involved in this. They should have interviewed him. We should have had these transcripts from an interview 2 years before, right after this crime take place. So, yeah, they wait 2 years to even do a thorough interview. They wait 2 years to ask him for the phone. They wait 2 years to find out that he said he's afraid the defendant put something remotely on his phone that might be incriminating. That all shows bias of the investigation.
Well, one of the reasons I asked about the time frame is that it was 2 years after the point in time when the child went missing, but it was also 2 years after law enforcement became aware that your client had allegedly confessed to the crime. So when they went out to interview Mr. Ledford, did they not also understand that your client had given a confession, even though he may have recanted at some point after that? Did they not also understand when they went out to interview Ledford that Mr. Daniels had given a confession to the crime, and there had been searches for the body based on that confession. I assume they did.
Yes, Your Honor. But as the cases say, specifically, even after a confession, law enforcement should still fully investigate to verify the veracity of the confession. So what I'm saying is they waited 2 years to do this. 2 years, confession or not, it doesn't make any difference. The cases say even with the confession, it should be fully investigated. It is bias of an investigation not to interview a man when a vehicle is seen leaving his house in the dark during the time period that the child went missing, not to follow up and ask him for his phone 2 years before. I mean, you call it laziness or you can call it bias. Either way, they sat on their hands after getting a confession. The cases say they're supposed to continue to fully investigate, and they didn't.
Well, as you pointed out, even if I exclude these interviews from being introduced into the case, you would nonetheless would have the right to ask the investigating officers about whether or not they interviewed, or they went out and talked to Mr. Ledford, and whether he cooperated in their opinion. I mean, there's, other than interviewing or other than introducing these interviews, there's, as you pointed out, it's not hearsay to ask an investigating officer, did he go and talk to Mr. Ledford? Did Mr. Ledford agree to let him use the phone, look at his phone, or to have his phone? Did they seek a search warrant? None of those things are hearsay. I agree with you. So my question is, if that's necessary, if those things are admissible and not hearsay, why is it necessary to introduce these interviews of Mr. Ledford in that case?
Your Honor, for the purpose of impeachment, if you ask him, did you ask for and have his phone forensically checked, that's one thing. But when you put on proof that when you ask about the phone, he says he's concerned about what's on my phone because I think the defendant may have remotely hacked it and put something on it, that shows stronger information that law enforcement should follow up. When you've got somebody that's denying he left the house when officers can see a vehicle leaving his driveway during the time the child went missing, add on top of that the fact that when confronted about the phone and asking to look at it, he indicates he's afraid there might be something on his phone that makes him look bad that's put on there remotely. Those two things right there should have made law enforcement at least seek a search warrant. I mean, this guy's denying he left, and they know a car left. He's saying, I'm afraid the defendant put something bad on my phone. And so that's an admission there could be evidence on the phone, and they want to know where he went. And they don't even try to do that. They don't even talk to him for 2 years. They should have sought a search warrant right off the bat, fully investigating the case like they're supposed to, even after a confession. They should have sought a search warrant and try to ascertain if his phone left that residence and where it went. When he tells them, I'm afraid the defendant's put information on my phone and hacked it, those are things that law enforcement should have followed up on immediately and should have done it 2 years before. I submit the fact they waited 2 years to even check out somebody that had a vehicle leaving during the time the child went missing, that shows bias in the investigation. And I submit it denies our client his rights to confront witnesses, to put on a defense, and to show bias in the investigation if we can't go into these statements.
Pretrial hearings are continuing tomorrow, and we'll continue to track them right here on Closing Argument.